Have you ever seen a police dog bark? Not out of fear, but out of grief? Not at a threat, not at a suspect, but at a woman holding a baby who wouldn't blink, wouldn't breathe, wouldn't move? In the middle of Kingsworth International Airport, under blinding lights and winter snow, one police dog broke protocol. He barked, then froze. And when he turned his gaze, not to the mother, but to the child, everything went silent. And what happened next? It shattered the line between instinct and evil. If stories like this stir something deep in you, something about truth, about unseen heroes who walk on four legs, we invite you to join us. Not with pressure, just presence. Drop a comment. Share what this makes you feel. And if you believe the bond between human and dog still holds something sacred, hit subscribe. Walk with us. Because what you're about to witness isn't just a rescue, it's a revelation. Now, let me show you why Rex never looked away. The glass panels of Kingsworth International blurred with frost, each window catching ghost reflections of passing lives. Officer Niara Renly adjusted the grip on her radio as she moved through the terminal, her steps measured, her mind already bracing for another long shift. But beside her, Rex wasn't walking. He was listening. Not sniffing for contraband, not trailing anyone. He moved with a stillness that had nothing to do with training and everything to do with instinct. It started with a pause, a sharp, precise turn of his head. Then, the freeze. Rex stopped in front of Gate 12. His ears twitched, nostrils flared. Not at luggage, not at noise. At a woman, elegant coat, oversized sunglasses. One arm gently wrapped around a sleeping infant. Too gently. Niara slowed. Her pulse didn't spike, but something in her ribs tightened, like memory trying to whisper. Then Rex gave a single growl, low, guttural, protective. Not for show. Something's wrong. The woman turned, polished, smiling. "Is your dog all right?" Rex didn't move. His eyes, deep, sable, sharp, had already locked onto the child. And Niara saw it too. Not a blink, not a stir, not even the rise of a breath. That wasn't sleep. That was silence. And silence has weight. The bark hadn't echoed. It vibrated. Not through sound, but through intention, through direction. Officer Niara Renly didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "Ma'am," she said calmly, stepping forward, "can I speak with you for a moment?" The woman turned, measured, collected. Not startled. Her smile hovered between polite and performative. "Is this about your dog?" Niara kept her voice gentle, but her eyes had already gone still. "Most babies flinch at barking." She nodded toward the child, still unmoving. "Yours didn't even blink." The woman shifted the baby on her shoulder. "She's a heavy sleeper." But something clashed in that sentence. The baby's posture, rigid, limp, symmetrical, like a photo, not a child. Rex hadn't moved a muscle. He didn't bark again, didn't growl, but his eyes. They tracked the baby's breathing, not the woman. Niara took a subtle half-step to the side, enough to position herself between them and the nearest exit. "What's your destination today?" she asked casually. "Chicago, Flight 817. Niara glanced toward the departure board just beyond the gate. Her tone never changed. "That flight's been canceled for over 2 hours. A pause, then a smile. Just a second too late. "I meant the next one. It's been a long morning." But Rex was already responding. Not with sound, with a shift, a pivot of his body, angled toward the child, blocking the woman, not attacking her. Niara's breath caught. She didn't know what this was yet, but she knew this. Rex had stopped looking at the mother, and that changed everything. "I meant United," the woman said quickly. "Must have confused the times." Niara didn't respond right away. She studied the woman, not rudely, but with the kind of quiet scrutiny that comes from years of listening to what people don't say. The baby's head rested against her shoulder, at a stiff angle, unmoving, too still to be sleep, too still to be alive. Rex didn't growl this time. He watched, a steady, unblinking gaze, cycling between the woman's grip and the child's face. Not searching, reading. Niara softened her tone. Do you mind showing me your boarding pass? Just a quick verification, since the reroutes have been so chaotic. The woman hesitated. A split-second flicker, then a smile. Of course. Just a second. She shifted the child awkwardly to one arm and dug into her designer bag. Her movements were smooth, but her fingers trembled. Nyara's hand moved subtly toward her belt, not to reach, just to prepare. Then, Rex stepped forward, deliberate, not lunging. He placed his body in front of the woman's knees, tail low, gaze steady. A blockade, not a threat. And suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The people around them didn't notice, but Nyara did. So did the woman. The smile faded. "You're making a scene," she whispered tightly. Nyara didn't blink. Her voice was calm. "I'm just wondering why your baby hasn't moved in over 6 minutes." Silence. Then Rex's ears pinned back. Not in fear, in recognition. The woman exhaled. Just a little too long. The kind of breath people take when they're about to lie, and hope the silence buys them grace. "My ID is in here somewhere," she murmured, digging deeper into the bag, shifting the baby again. Nyara didn't interrupt. She didn't need to, because Rex had already leaned forward, not barking, not growling, just tilting his head by inches, listening, reading. And then she saw it. The baby's limbs weren't cradled. They hung, light, loose, unresponsive. A hush settled behind Nyara's ribs, like the moment before thunder. She tapped her radio twice. No words, just the signal. Backup. Quiet. Now the woman pulled out a pristine ID. Too clean. Too laminated. No fingerprint smudges. No cornerware. "This is me," she offered, tone flat. Nyara nodded, scanning it without blinking, then asked with careful stillness, "And the child's name?" The pause was microscopic. Then, "Emily." Rex gave a soft, high-pitched whine. It wasn't aggression. It was memory. Nyara's eyes sharpened. She'd heard that sound before. 2 years ago. A case never made public. A silent bedroom. A lifeless child. And a K-9 who wouldn't leave her side for 3 days. She turned slowly to face Rex. His gaze had not moved. His body remained tense. And in that stillness, Nyara felt it. This wasn't about ID. This wasn't about mistaken flights. This was a pattern. Repeating. And Rex, he wasn't reacting to a stranger. He was recognizing something. He'd already grieved once before. Officer Kalian Stroud arrived quietly. No sirens, no panic. Just a firm, steady walk through the shifting crowd. He'd seen Nyara's signal. That was enough. The woman, who now introduced herself as Juliana, didn't move much. Her grip on the baby had tightened. Too tight. "Ma'am," Kalian said gently, "we'd like to move you to a quieter space. Routine, with everything going on." "I'm already late," she snapped. A crack. Small but widening. The child hadn't reacted. Still no twitch. No blink. No breath fog on the soft wool blanket. Rex stepped closer, smooth and silent, lowering his body slightly. Not to lunge. To shield. Nyara mirrored the motion. A quiet triangle of protection now boxed Juliana in. Not aggressive, just firm. "We just need to check on the child's well-being," Nyara said softly. "Nothing more." Juliana's eyes flared. "You can't do that." But the law was already in motion. Kalian's voice dropped. "We're initiating a welfare check, right now." Juliana clutched the child tighter. And then, Rex moved. It was subtle, a single step forward. He leaned in and pressed his nose gently to the baby's foot. No response, not even warmth. Nyara's breath caught, shallow and sharp. Then her voice changed. It cut the air like glass. "Ma'am," she said, no longer gentle, "I need you to hand her to me. Now." A beat, and Rex, still watching, didn't blink. Juliana didn't budge. For a full 3 seconds, the world around her held its breath. Then, barely audible, her voice cracked. "You're overreacting. She's just tired." Kalian didn't flinch. "That's not the question," he said quietly. "The question is she safe?" Juliana's arms flexed again, clutching the child as if afraid she'd vanish. But then, a flicker. The child's eyelid twitched. Not wide open, not aware, just movement. A breath too shallow, a flutter of life on the edge. Rex responded immediately. He lowered his chest, ears tilted slightly back. Not attack posture, guardian posture. Niara stepped forward, voice warm but firm. Let us help. And for a moment, just a blink, Juliana hesitated. That's when a new presence entered the scene. Officer Mirith Kalis, with 2 airport medics in tow, appeared from the left. Quiet, precise. Called 10 minutes ago, just in case. One look at the baby was enough. Minimal respiration, the medic said, already kneeling. Pulse is faint. This baby's been sedated. The room cracked. Juliana stepped back. Her face, 2 smooth seconds ago, now fractured. Her mouth opened, but no words came. And Rex, he didn't look at her. He turned toward the corridor behind them. A shadow movement. A presence she had been watching for. Waiting on. Kalian followed Rex's stare. Nyara, he said tightly, we're not alone. The corridor behind Gate 12 was supposed to be empty, but Rex didn't care what the blueprint said. He moved, fluid and silent, as if he already knew this place had been rewritten. Nyara followed, one hand hovering near her belt. Not to draw, just to feel anchored. The noise of the terminal faded behind her, like the memory of a dream. Kalian stayed close, flanking the rear. Mireth spoke into her comms with quiet urgency. Requesting camera feed on West Utility Access. Possible secondary subject. But Rex didn't wait for clearance. He slipped into a side hallway, unmarked, dim, lined with janitorial storage and forgotten signage. The kind of place people walked past without seeing. Then, a door creaked. Rex froze. So did Niara. It wasn't the door that made her skin crawl. It was the voice that followed. You were supposed to wait. Male, calm, cold. From the shadows stepped a man in a tailored coat in a hospital badge clipped to his lapel. I'm Dr. Varen Blackmore, he said smoothly. She's not dangerous. She's sick. I'm here to help. She's been under my care. But Rex, he didn't bark. He didn't growl. He just stared. And when his ears flattened, Niara felt her gut twist. This wasn't a psychiatrist intervening. This was a piece of the puzzle stepping forward. Too fast. Too calm. And Rex, he'd seen this kind of calm before. The kind that comes just before something breaks. Dr. Varen Blackmore's badge glinted under the flickering fluorescent light. Too polished, too precise. She's been missing for 72 hours, he said with practiced calm. She's delusional, but not violent. She believes the child is hers. Nyara didn't move, didn't blink, because that sentence wasn't clinical. It was scripted. Kalian stepped beside her, arms crossed but eyes sharp. You bypassed airport security? I didn't want to escalate a mental health crisis, Varen replied. Jessica trusts me. I've worked with her for months. Rex was still, not frozen, focused. His eyes weren't on Varen's hands. They were locked on his eyes, reading the quiet that lives behind intention. Something was off. Nyara's fingers skimmed her notepad. She scribbled one word. Fabricated. The badge. The tone. The timeline. And then, the supply door behind Varen creaked open. Everyone turned except Rex. He'd already sensed it. A figure stepped out. Thin. Pale. Hospital scrubs that hung off her like old ghosts. A woman, eyes wide. Hollow. I told him, she whispered, voice barely formed. I told him she looked just like Charlie. The name broke the silence like glass. Jessica. She wasn't delusional. She was programmed. And Varen, he didn't deny it. He didn't move. He just stopped smiling. And Rex, he stepped sideways, placing himself between Jessica and the man who wore her broken story like a coat. Jessica's eyes darted toward Varen, searching not for help, but for permission. And the fact that she hesitated said everything. I wasn't supposed to see her, she murmured, voice caught between childlike fear and fractured truth. But when I did, I knew. She looked like him, like Charlie. Jessica, Varen interrupted, calm, cold, final. That's enough. It wasn't a correction. It was a command. Nyara felt her spine lock. The way Varen spoke, this wasn't doctor and patient. This was handler and subject. Who told you the child was yours? Kalian asked gently. Jessica turned to him slowly, as if her limbs belonged to someone else. Doctor Blackmore, she whispered. He said my sister stole her, that the hospital declared me unfit, that this, she glanced at the child, was justice. The words hung in the air like poison. Nyara's voice cracked through the silence. Your sister's name is Claire Mills, isn't it? Jessica nodded, twice, then flinched, like the name burned. Kalian exchanged a look with Mirith. Claire filed a missing persons report. She believed you were taken. Jessica blinked, slowly, as if trying to unsee the version of herself she'd been made into. You said if I held her, something inside her would remember me. And Varen, no longer hiding, no longer soothing, simply said, she needed closure. But Nyara shook her head. She needed help. And you gave her a story to drown in. Jessica sank slowly to the ground, her back against the cold wall, arms wrapped around herself instead of the child. She didn't cry, not loudly, not dramatically. She just folded. I held her, she whispered, and for a moment it felt right, like Charlie was reaching back. Nyara didn't speak. She just knelt beside her, closer than protocol allowed, closer than law required. Dr. Blackmore remained still, no longer masking his disdain. He looked at Jessica like a system malfunctioning. She was grieving, he said plainly. I gave her structure, something to believe in. You gave her a delusion, Kalian muttered, voice like gravel, and you almost cost a child her life. Jessica flinched at that. Her eyes fell to the baby, now in the arms of a medic, monitored, breathing, light returning to pale skin. What's her real name? She asked almost inaudibly. Sophia, Nyara replied softly. Claire named her Sophia Vale. Jessica froze. Sophia, she repeated, as if tasting the word and finding it foreign, then holy. She didn't resist when the cuffs came. She didn't speak when they read her rights. But when Rex moved beside her, gently pressing his head near her knee, Jessica gasped, a soft, shuddering sound. Because in that silent touch, she understood something no one else could give her. Not innocence, not absolution, but recognition. And in that flicker of recognition, a thread of healing began. It should have ended there. But justice rarely sleeps quietly. Back at headquarters, Officer Mirith Kalis pulled up a digital warrant notification. Unit 31, she read aloud. Storage facility leased to Varen Blackmore. Secured under emergency search. Kalian and Nyara exchanged a glance. They didn't hesitate. The facility was miles from the airport, tucked between a gas station and a gravel lot. No signage, no staff. Inside, sterile quiet. No alarms, no chaos. Just stillness. What they found wasn't illegal, not at first glance. A crib, a rocking chair, a baby monitor still on, the faint scent of lavender soap. But it wasn't the objects that froze Nyara mid-step. It was the arrangement. Too deliberate, too curated. Then Kalian called from the back wall. You need to see this. A bulletin board, neat rows of printed documents, color-coded, each with a photo, medical notes, therapy records, all women, all grieving, all marked with dates, progress notes, and one repeated phrase, handwritten in the margins, potential for maternal reclamation. Nyara stared at it, eyes wide. This wasn't treatment. This wasn't care. It was conditioning. Kalian's voice darkened. Jessica wasn't the beginning. Nyara's breath hitched. She was just the first with a pulse left in the crib. And Rex stood frozen in front of the board, staring at the names, as if his body remembered something his mind couldn't say. The files weren't old. They weren't archived. They were active. Nyara flipped through them in silence. Each woman profiled not by who she was, but by what she'd lost. Stillbirth, custody battle, postpartum breakdown. Every story ended the same. Subject isolated. Recommend psychological restructuring, Kalian whispered behind her. reading over her shoulder. These aren't patients. They're selections. Each file had annotations in Baron's hand. Most clinical, some eerie. One note. She dreams of lullabies in abandoned houses. Promising, suggestibility high. Nyara stopped reading. Her throat clenched, because this wasn't just manipulation. It was harvesting grief. They weren't helping these women, Mireth said, voice tight. They were repurposing them. For what? To turn sorrow into loyalty, to make their brokenness useful. Nyara stared at a photo of a woman listed as too compliant, failed attempt, but it was what lay underneath that stilled her. A photo of a different child, a new one, younger, smiling. The caption read only, "Target reassigned, prepared for transition." Her skin turned cold. "How many more?" she whispered. No one answered, but Rex, still at her feet, let out a low, keening whine. Not alert, not pain, something deeper, like he knew. Nyara sank to her knees, hands trembling. They were never looking for mothers to heal. They were collecting ones who'd already been forgotten, and using their love to steal new life. The photo was paper-clipped to a thin medical form. The child, no older than 2, stared out with wide, unblinking eyes. No name, just a label. Status, undisclosed. Nyara held the page as if it might tear from the weight of what it meant. Not forgotten, erased. Sable stepped closer, scanning the metadata. Last update, 13 days ago. Kalian stiffened. It's current. This isn't history. Nyara's voice dropped. Then they're still doing it. She looked at the wall of files. Each one a stolen life, a silent scream lost in clinical ink. Some of the women had been declared missing. Others, released under guardianship with no follow-up. All of them, used. Rex suddenly paced, slow, deliberate circles. His breathing quickened, nose twitching, not tracking scent, memory. He stopped in front of a steel drawer, then sat, head lifted, eyes locked. Kalian stepped forward. He's alerting. Mireth forced the drawer open. Inside, a tablet, password protected, and next to it, a flash drive, black, no label, except for one word scratched faintly into the casing, blueprint. The room chilled. Nyara didn't reach for it right away. She just stared. This isn't just a program, she whispered. It's a manual. Kalian met her gaze. Then it's time we stop reading. He reached down, and start dismantling. And Rex, still sitting, never looked away. The flash drive wasn't locked. That was the first warning sign. Too easy. Too intentional. Inside the digital lab, the forensics team worked in total silence. Thick glass separated them from the hallway, where Nyara stood with Kalian and Rex. The only sound a faint hum and the dog's steady breathing. Then the screen blinked to life. Lines of data, folder trees, nothing hidden, until the words appeared. Crisp, clinical. Transfer status, in progress. Kalian stepped forward. Not archived, not historical. Mireth murmured, it's live. Real-time data, names, locations, status logs. Each child tagged, each woman linked. One file froze them. Subject, Ezra Langley. Age 3. Behavioral drift observed. Sedation adjusted. Transfer to Facility 04, pending signature. Nyara's hands curled into fists. He's scaling it. This isn't just about Claire or Jessica. It's a system. A machine built from grief. Then, the screen blinked again. A red prompt. Timer ticking. Alpha protocol initiated. System purge in 0059. Download everything, Kalian barked. Techs move fast. Drives plugged. Files racing. Each second slower than the last. Rex growled low, eyes fixed on the lab's surveillance camera. Because someone was watching. Mireth's voice cracked through. We're being traced. He knew we'd find this. Nyara didn't hesitate. Pull what we can. Mark Facility 04. That's where we go next. And Rex, still growling, never turned away from the lens, as if daring it to blink first. The screen pulsed red. One by one, folders began collapsing, names disappearing like smoke before a hand could reach them. Nyara's voice cut through the hum of keys and adrenaline. Prioritize active locations, pull coordinates, timestamps, transfer routes, now. Text scrambled. Cables snaked across the floor. Data spilled like a dam breaking. But every second, something vanished. Sable leaned over the terminal. We've got 6 active locations. One is listed as Facility 04, Ezra Langley's destination. Kalian's jaw clenched. We move, now. But the full download, a tech protested. We can't save dead data, Nyara replied. Save the living. Files blinked. One flashed red. Pending extraction, subject Aurelia Venn, age 2. Rex growled, louder now, not panic. Warning. He turned again, this time facing the camera in the lab's upper corner. Ears pinned, muscles tense, his body between them and whatever watched from behind the feed. Kalian saw it too. That's not just surveillance, he muttered. It's him. Send what you have, Nyara snapped. Pull it, then wipe our trail. We take Facility 04 tonight. A final drive clicked. The last file flashed. The system blinked, black screen, silence. But the mission had already shifted. From evidence to extraction. Rex stepped forward, eyes still on the lens, and didn't blink. They reached Facility 04 just after nightfall. Unmarked, remote, surrounded by pines that swallowed sound. There were no guards, no cameras, just walls too clean, and a silence that wasn't peace, but containment. Nyara didn't knock. Kalian didn't ask. They moved as if time itself had been wounded. But Rex, he led, not like a search dog, like a compass that remembered. He bypassed the double doors, ignored signs, took a sharp right through a staff corridor with walls painted too softly for what they held. He stopped at a door. Room 7, no name, just a number. And then he did something no training had ever taught him. He laid down, his body against the door, his heartbeat steady. Kalian whispered, "He's anchoring." Nyara placed her hand on the knob. It trembled, not from fear, but from something deeper, certainty. She opened it. Inside, a boy, curled in the corner, a blanket too thin, one sock missing, a bandage on his wrist. His eyes didn't widen. He didn't cry. He just watched until he saw Rex. Then he reached out, tiny fingers, no hesitation. And Rex moved to him, lowered his head into the boy's lap gently. A sound escaped the child's throat, barely a whisper, not a word. But it was enough, because sometimes the first thing rescued isn't the body, it's the trust. The boy didn't speak at first. He didn't need to. He clung to Rex's fur like it was the only real thing left in the world. His fingers trembled, not with fear, but with relief too deep for words. Nyara crouched beside them, eyes soft, voice lower than a whisper. "Hey there. My name's Nyara. You're safe now, okay?" The boy blinked, once, twice, then looked up and whispered, "Ethan." The syllables barely made it out, but the room froze around it. Kalian, standing near the doorway, exhaled sharply. "Say that again?" Nyara asked gently, eyes welling. The boy nodded, a little stronger this time. "Ethan." Mareth checked the files, scrolling fast. Her voice cracked through the moment. "Ethan Vale, age 3, missing 18 months ago, presumed deceased." Nyara stared at him, at the messy hair, the sock that didn't match, the scratch on his cheek. Not gone. Taken. The boy looked around suddenly, nervous. Is she here? The mean one?" Nyara shook her head slowly. She won't find you again." And Rex, still nestled close, gave a soft huff of breath, like he agreed. The boy leaned into him, and in that moment, something broke open in the room. Not loud, not big, but real. Because when a stolen name is spoken out loud, it doesn't echo, it returns. Ethan didn't let go of Rex, not during the ride, not when the lights of the city returned, not when silence finally stopped being scary. The van moved slow through back roads, avoiding headlines and flash. This wasn't a rescue built for spectacle. It was built for wholeness. Nyara sat beside the boy, her hand resting quietly on her knee, close enough if he reached, but never forcing. Kalian drove in silence. Mareth tapped into dispatch softly, and Rex, he lay across Ethan's feet, the rhythm of his breath syncing with the boys. "Do you remember your home?" Nyara asked gently. Ethan's voice was barely more than breath. "My mom sang every night." Nyara smiled, not wide, just enough to let light in. "She's waiting," she said. She never stopped. When the van pulled up to the Children's Advocacy Center, the porch light was already on. Outside, a woman stood barefoot on cold concrete. Tears welled, hands trembled. She didn't move, couldn't, until the door slid open. "Ethan!" The boy's grip loosened on Rex. He looked up, then ran. Not fast, not dramatic, just honest, into arms that remembered his scent. And when he buried his face into her neck, the night cracked, not with sound, with relief. Nyara stepped out last, hand brushing Rex's vest. "You brought him back," she whispered, and for the first time in hours, Rex wagged his tail. Back at the precinct, the night had a different weight. No alarms, no sirens, just breathing. Rex lay curled beside Nyara's desk, his body still, but not from exhaustion, from completion. Across from her, Kalian sat with a half-filled report and a stare that reached backward. "The feds are taking it from here," he said quietly. 3 more facilities, 2 more children found, all alive." Nyara nodded, but her eyes stayed on Rex. "You know," she murmured, "there was talk of retiring him last year." Kalian looked up. He stopped alerting like the others. He wouldn't respond to packages, or explosives, or scent trails. Her fingers brushed through Rex's fur, slow and careful. He only reacted to moments. Kalian didn't laugh. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Maybe that's the point. Maybe we trained them to detect what we could measure. But Rex, he found what we couldn't name." The room felt warmer, though the heater hadn't kicked in. On the corkboard behind them, photos of rescued children now overlapped old reports. Ethan's face among them, eyes brighter in print than they'd found him. Nyara looked down. Rex let out a soft exhale. Not asleep, just here. "You found him," she whispered, and in that whisper lived every name that never made the news, every hallway no one searched, every child whose voice was lost before it could speak. "How many more," she breathed, "are waiting for someone who listens without needing proof?" And Rex, still resting, didn't move, but she knew. He heard her. Some endings don't roar, they exhale. Rex didn't ask for recognition. He never needed the word hero. But in a world full of red tape and rational doubts, he was a compass no one could replicate, drawn not by orders, but by truth unspoken. Ethan slept peacefully now, his heartbeat no longer defensive. And in another hallway, another child was being called by their real name again. Not subject, not status, just themselves. Because of Rex. Because he refused to look away. He didn't follow scent trails. He followed pain. He followed silence. And when no one else could feel what was wrong, he did. That's the kind of story we tell here. Not just of crimes or rescues, but of instinct that still matters, of loyalty that listens when logic fails, of quiet eyes that don't need to blink to see everything. If this story moved something in you, made you pause, made you remember, even made you feel something hard, please let us know in the comments. We read every word, truly. And if you believe that some of the most powerful voices in this world walk on 4 legs, we'd be honored to have you stay. Not out of pressure, just presence. Subscribe if your heart says yes. Because stories like this don't end with a case closed. They live on, in every child found, every silence broken, and every time a police dog refuses to walk away. Life lessons from this story. Sometimes it's not the loudest voice that tells the truth. It's the one that never looked away. In a world obsessed with proof, where everything must be seen, measured, verified, we forget that instinct is a language too. That silence can hold meaning. That some souls, like Rex, don't need words to know when something is wrong. This wasn't just a story about a police dog. It was about presence, the kind that stays when others hesitate, the kind that doesn't flinch when pain enters the room. Rex didn't follow commands. He followed feeling. He sensed grief where others saw compliance. He protected not just lives, but truths buried beneath manipulation and doubt. And maybe that's what we're all being reminded of, to trust our gut, to pause when something feels off, to believe not always in evidence, but in empathy. Because sometimes the real heroes aren't the ones who speak the loudest. They're the ones who listen hardest. And in the end, it wasn't the system that saved Ethan. It was a dog who refused to blink until the truth opened its eyes. Let that stay with you, not just as a story, but as a way of seeing.